I don't know, he was telling me about when he got down here, how there was this dock with all these crazy boats. He shows up on a Friday or whatever it was during the week, and there was all these beautiful boats on this dock. And then Saturday morning comes, and all those boats are gone, right? They're all gone. And Sunday night comes, all those boats are back. Those people have to go back to work, and they have to bust their butts for 5 days to come down to the Cape, spend 2 days on their yachts or boats or whatever it is, park them there, and then go back to work. One of my huge aha moments in this business was seeing literally the freedom of time that this guy had with his family. And he actually told me, he says, I think we're gonna stay another 2 weeks. I'm like, man, I gotta go home. But it was in my mind, I'm like, wow, that is true financial freedom. I've witnessed it firsthand, right in front of my eyes. Somebody that's been helping me build my business, literally, and you hear them talk about it, when you see, yeah, our kids don't have to go to school or anything, it's summer, and Amy and I don't have to go to work, and they just decided to stay an extra 2 weeks, or a week, whatever it was. That to me was so powerful in the vision and the dream and the reality, if you're consistent, what this business can do for your life. The guy that's going to come up here he's such a genuine person. He's such a very good friend of mine. He's humble. I think 4 or 5 months into the business, I started to have some really good success. He was a 3-star diamond at the time. He called me to find out what I was doing. He didn't have an ego. He just said, dude, I remember saying, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised you're calling me. This is kind of flattering you're calling me. He's like, dude, I just been in this business longer. That's it. It's just time. I've had the pleasure of skiing with this guy and just hanging out with him and just really learning as much as I can from him, because I want to have what he has. So 7-star diamond, combined 10-star, a 3-time elite coach, a member of the Millionaires Club, right alongside his coach, Bob Lucido. Please come up to the stage, buddy. Keith Callahan.
Wow, all right. Can we shut that off? Is that all right?
Yes.
Shut that off? So I feel good getting up on the stage today, because yesterday Bob introduced me up on the stage, and it was about this, the stage was about this high, and I came up the side instead of the stairs, and I fell. Like literally fell flat on my face getting up on the stage. So I'm always a little nervous coming up here, but I feel better now that I haven't fallen coming up on the stage. So I'm gonna share a story with you guys today, and really it's a story of how I got here. It's a story that I've shared in writing before, but I've never shared like this. I've never shared it with a crowd, so it may be a little tough for me to get through. But I want to start by saying that everybody is here in this room, and we're here, and we're watching this, and you can see someone like, someone that Greg just did this amazing introduction for me, and you see someone like Greg Plaskett and someone like Bob Lucido and Don Murphy and all the amazing presenters that you saw here today. And what I want you guys to understand is they're just like you. Everybody's just like you. There's nothing different, there's nothing special. And hopefully today when you hear my story, you'll understand that we have struggles just like you. And just like Greg had mentioned, the only thing that matters in this business, if you got started, if you're doing all those things, we had this amazing presentation, and you have the how-to. If you're doing the how-to and you're having the success, just keep going. The only losers in this business are the ones who quit. Think about that. If you're doing the work, it will happen. Is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? I don't know. I do know one thing though, it will happen for you if you stick with it. So I want to share my story, and I may get emotional during this, guys. This is a tough thing for me to share, but I was praying on the this morning and on the way out about what to talk about, and my story really starts, and there's 4 stages. There's up to rock bottom, there's healing, and then there's the transition, and then there's living, like fully living. And I grew up with an alcoholic father, a full-blown alcoholic father, and a enabling mother. And when I was in the 7th grade, I drank my first 6-pack of beer in my bedroom by myself on a school night. And that led to, all through high school and all through college, blacking out 3 or 4 nights a week, fully blacking out, waking up in the morning, not remembering how the night ended. And then when I was 22 years old, I was down in Mardi Gras with a group of college friends, and I had to get carried home 2.5 miles by them. Didn't remember what happened, didn't remember getting carried home. Woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning to a fire alarm going off in the hotel and full alcohol poisoning. And I sat in a hotel room while my friends were out drinking and partying for the last 2 days, and I had alcohol poisoning. I was very sick the whole time. I wasn't sleeping. I was shaking. I hit rock bottom. I hit rock bottom in my life and decided that it was time to make a change. Decided that it was time to stop living that life that I had lived. And sort of took a different path. I didn't go to AA or any of that. That was the last time I've ever been drunk. I've had drinks since then, but I never got to that point again. And it was time for me to start healing my life. And what that really was, what the drinking was, what all of it was covering up the pain that was underneath, right? And now when I stopped drinking, all that pain started surfacing. Fear, anxiety, depression. I had to face my life. I had to face reality as to where I was. It was time to make a change in my life. So for me, that it started with yoga. I found refuge in going to a yoga class, and I could breathe, and I could just focus on breathing, and I could forget about life for a few minutes. I could forget about the pain of the past. I could forget about all that stuff. And then, fast forwarding, the reason that Bob Lucido and I met, I wound up doing 2 years of intense therapy with his wife. And I mean, anybody that knows his wife, she's not like, it's not like sit on the couch and talk therapy. It's like she's poking you with a knife, like getting at like every single corner of everything. And it sucked. I cried for 2 years. I cried for 2 years straight, and I shook and I was in fear, but I knew it was the right thing, right? Like, when you're on the right path. We have intuition built in, and we know when we're doing the right thing. And I knew it. I knew I was doing the right thing, so I just kept going. But here's one thing that I want you to remember. I had somebody showing me what to do, and I was able to surrender everything and trust in that person, right? And when you're up here, you're watching people that have gone before you. You're watching people that have had success in this business. I'm here to tell you right now, you can do it. The biggest thing that stands between, because there's a lot of people that have massive success in this business, right? And there's other people who tinker around with it. And the majority of the people tinker around with it. The reason they tinker around with it, the reason that you may not be having the success that you want yet, is because you don't yet believe you're worthy of it. You don't yet believe that you can do it. You don't believe that you can be the person standing up here presenting next year at the January Super Saturday. Can you hear me if I talk like this? All right. All right, can you hear me? So, I went through this whole entire healing process, and I got to the point that I could breathe in my life. I got to the point that I started to become a man, right? Because up until that point, I was a 22-year-old child. I started drinking in the 7th grade at the age of 12 years old. I never progressed past. I was 22 years old with a 12-year-old emotional body, with a 12-year-old mental body, 12-year-old spiritual body. And now I got to the point that I cleaned a lot of that out. I got to the point that I was able to start having conversations with people, to start just start living a little bit, right? And Bob and I had met after his wife Shiva. I had done a bunch of therapy with her, and she had told me, I can only get you so far. You can only get so far on your own. And it's you versus the world now. You're out here and you're up here, you're so mental body. And I got introduced to Bob, and I wound up joining their spiritual community, and I found a connection with God, and I found something that was bigger than just me, that was bigger than us human beings, and I was able to plug into that. And this next part's gonna sound so corny and so cliche. Bob, myself, and Kai Rose started P90X together, and that was the piece that changed my life. Because up until that point, I had never completed something in my life, right? I had never completed it 100%. For anybody that's done any of our programs 100%, it's not about the physical. The physical is great, but the personal power that you gain when you complete that program, that's the life-changing piece. That's the life-changing piece. And there's no way I could have done that. No way I could have completed that without Bob's support and without Kai's support and us supporting each other. So sometimes we can, we talk about the challenge groups and we talk about the importance of being a coach, but I'm standing here right now with the success I've had in this business, and to be able to be honored to speak in front of you guys. That's where all of that came from. It came from doing that program 100%, and that started my transition. I went through that, and I got great results, and then I started sharing those results with my friends and with my family before I was a coach. And sometimes there's a little lesson within each story, and here's an important piece for you to take home. Remember when you weren't a coach, or even if you started a program and you were, how do I word this correctly? One of the easiest ways to be a very good coach is to forget that you are a coach. Because how would you recommend our programs if you weren't getting paid for it? How would you recommend our business opportunity if you weren't getting paid for it? Right? Because it's that good, you would recommend it anyways. So when I finished P90X and I got in the best shape of my life, but it was the physical, it was the mental, it was the emotional, I was happier, I was empowered, right? That's what came from that. And I started sharing that with friends, I started sharing that with family, and for 2 years, that's what I did. I was acting as a coach for 2 years, and then, Bob had signed up as a coach, and I wasn't ready. I didn't want to hear it, and for me, it was one of those things where, in all honesty, I didn't want to taint what I already had. I had this amazing experience with Beachbody, and I didn't want to, I wanted it to just stay at that. And I didn't see the big picture of it. So the clinching piece for me, and some people don't like to talk about money with this, but for me, when I started as a Beachbody coach, I was a new husband, I was a new father, and I need to support my family, right? That's reality. And I saw a picture of Christine Dwyer and, I forget the other woman's name. There was another woman who got the 15-star bonus with them, and Bob, he knew how to get me. He sent me a text message, and they're holding checks of $130,000 standing up on stage. And Bob just wrote that was the quarterly bonus. So I got that text and I called him right away. I was like, all right, I'm ready to talk to you about this. Tell me what's going on.